If negativity is habitual, then I think at times we're addicted to our habits. I think sometimes we don't recognize how much what we tell ourselves and what we feed ourselves feeds into what we actually experience and what we think on a regular basis. I think that at the end of the day, what we are is a reflection of our most dominant thoughts, of our most repetitive, of our most stagnant thoughts. And in recognizing our our own negativity, but recognizing our propensity to take in negativity from the outside world and perpetuate it through ourselves internally. I think that we are granted a sort of opportunity to attune ourselves to something better. And I'm realizing this especially with myself because I'm generally a positive person. I try to be positive as much as I can, but I recognize at times where I'm not being intentional with the way I'm viewing certain things or not being intentional with the way I'm taking care of myself, that sort of mindset seems to slip. And I think a lot of us are sort of in that period of, we can recognize our own mental processes. We can recognize, some of the things that are causing us undoing, some of the things that are negative for us. But when it comes to our intentionality, we sort of are lackluster. I think acknowledging the problem is the first step of the battle. The first half of the battle is getting there, recognizing that you have something to sort of conflict with. And the second half is you actually conflicting with it. You actually instantiating some type of positivity or some type of identity, which accommodates your positivity, which accommodates your love, which accommodates the life that you actually want to experience. Otherwise, all we're going to be doing is experiencing things that are uncharacteristic of ourselves. I think that whatever we give to the moment and whatever we give to ourselves in a real sense is reflected in how we experience the moment. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I'm making this because when I woke up this morning, I felt not bad, but I just, you feel off sometimes. And I'm like, what's the reasoning? Like, what's the point? What's the, conclusion? And I think it really just stemmed from me sort of getting lax on some of my um, affirmations, one, and my routines, which sort of made me feel more like myself, which I don't necessarily feel like you need, but I think we all need to be grounded on a regular basis. I think if we don't ground ourselves in some type of reality, then all we're going to be doing is living in someone else's or living in one that we don't want to live in. I think you can't see up while looking down in a lot of ways. I think we have to learn to sort of, regardless of some type of negative circumstance, regardless of some type of situation, keep our head on the upward tilt. Keep walking on elevation. You have to keep walking on a slant. And what that means to me is sort of walking on this idea or some sort of positivity that things are going to get better. Have that intention in mind and continue to move forward. It's not necessarily just about how it plays out, because that's going to be understood when it does. So it's about the mentality that you have at the moments where it's not necessarily playing out, when things aren't necessarily manifesting into life immediately. It's about keeping that same mentality and being firm in it. Being firm in the gratitude that you have for what you have yet to experience, and being firm in the gratitude that you have for what you have experienced, for what you do currently have. And recognizing that any type of gratitude, or you can be grateful for anything. So there's no point in constantly harking on yourself for certain negative circumstances. I recognize that sometimes we do things that are uncharacteristic of ourselves, and we feel as if we have to punish ourselves with some sort of guilt or shame, which to some extent I feel like it's true. To some extent I feel like it's real. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to understand the implications of your actions to both others and to yourself. But I feel like once you get to a point of that understanding, forgiveness is important too. You have to learn how to walk forward and leave stuff behind in a real sense. Not to say be negligent of the past or negligent of the way you've impacted people. But the only way to truly solve that, or the only way to truly mitigate that, or repent for that, or whatever, is to be present enough to make the choices that don't align with the past. Be present enough to make choices to actually lead to your best good and do good by people and do good by yourself. I think that's at the end of the day what's most important in the cultivation of anything. Because I feel like a lot of self aware people aren't able to truly muster up some type of strength in terms of their mental or some type of positivity in regards to their mental because of the subtle ways they undo themselves consciously. I think a lot of us are aware of the ways in which, we negatively impact people, or the way in which we let our ego sort of run amok when it comes to our interaction. And I think the longer we allow that to happen consciously, the longer we sort of play a bystander role to our own life, the longer we're going to feel like we're dictated by everything but us. I feel like embracing your own positivity and being positive to yourself is something that can only be achieved when you actually are present enough to do so. When you actually give yourself the sort of tools and foundations to actually be positive. Because I feel like to a real extent, if you can't influence, if you can't imagine or use your brain to sort of depict a reality where you are positive, or look at a situation in a way that allows you to keep being positive, or look at anything in a way that allows you to be there, then I think we're not going to be. I think if we're really just reflections of our mind, if the way we interact with the world is purely just a mental thing, then why not fix that in our favor? I don't necessarily think that's true. I don't think we're all mind. I don't think we're all body. I don't think we're all spirit. I think that it's important to use these things in conjunction, but I feel like even if you are going with the notion that you are just your mind and you think that your thoughts have this much control and you think that you're the one that gives them that control. You're the one that gives your thoughts that type of potency, either in your avoidance or in your negligence. I think you have to sort of be acutely aware of the way you think, or acutely aware of the way you, again, undo yourself with your own thought. I feel like if we can't be present enough with our thoughts and present enough with how we think about things, then we're never going to go into anything positive. I think it's about truly using your opportunities in each and every sign of the universe's affection and any type of affection that you get from the world to be grateful for what you have and what has yet to come. Sometimes when I am overthinking or just thinking too much, and something sort of brings me back to myself or brings me back to the present moment, I use that to my advantage, and I try to think about something positive. I try to feel positive about the life I'm experiencing. And when I say try, I don't necessarily mean try in effort, but in my willingness to listen, my willingness to see the things around me that I should be grateful for. First of all, being alive. First of all, being here to even have that debate, have that mentality, or I have to pick between this, that, and the other. Having the choice. And I think embracing our possibility is a very positive thing. And I think a lot of people would benefit if they just, let their guard down with themselves enough to recognize that things don't always have to be the way that, you think they have to. If someone says something to you, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to get dragged out of your body and feel some type of negative way and project that negative feeling onto everything around you. Because at the end of the day, you're the only person who can feel your feelings and experience them to a subtle extent. So it's your responsibility to sort of manage those feelings and manage those mentalities in a way that actually allow you to be. To say you can't look or you can't see up while looking down is really to say that you can't see up while looking down. I think a lot of us look down at our past or look down at our negativity in a sense of living in it. We get so tunnel vision and so preoccupied with instantiations of negativity that we can't acknowledge that they're just instantiations of negativity. They're not the whole of your being. They're not everything that you experience. They're not what you go through. They're not what you grow through. If you want to grow in the right direction, you have to plant yourself in the right place. And I think the right place is always invested in yourself, invested in the positivity and love that you should have for yourself. And I feel like if you don't have any love for yourself, then it's about creating it. Self-love truly does have no condition, in my opinion. I feel like, yes, we have certain shames. We have certain things that we dislike about ourselves, but you don't have to like everything you love. I think sometimes you have to love yourself into getting better. You have to love yourself enough to make the choices that are sort of uncomfortable and be in the unknown and be in the present moment enough to to confront, to face your own problems. What we run from has already caught us, and I think a lot of us run from the present moment because of parts of ourselves that are present there. I don't think a lot of people can sit still with the whole of who they are because our thoughts sort of get in the way of experience. And I think the only way to truly get ahead of that, to take a step forward from the mind, is to try to be present, to try to be where you are and to ground yourself in some type of reality which is not biased by your experience, your previous experiences, I'll say, but more so cater to the present one. Cater to your own mental and cater to your own desires as it pertains to your future. Being present enough to make choices that actually lead to you being happy, that lead to you feeling some type of gratitude for the life you live and feeling some type of experience that is beautiful in your own light. I think we all shine so brightly when we don't allow ourselves to be contrasted by everything around us. It's about appreciating your own individuality to a great extent and laughing at your own humor. Being there for yourself enough to give yourself some type of applause and give yourself some type of validation. So you're not focused on looking down and focused on looking at the negative aspects of your life, but more so looking up, looking at what has yet to come and recognizing that it can always get better. People might be like, oh, it can always get worse, but it can always get better. I feel like if you're going to acknowledge a possibility, why not rest your hope and your optimism in something beneficial? I feel like constantly looking towards negative things and thinking that nothing's going to work out in your favor is sort of like, being stagnant. Thinking that nothing is ever going to change because nothing is. But I feel like that's a very component that makes change inevitable or makes change impossible. I feel like change is inevitable when growth is your goal. If we want to grow, if we want to develop as people, we're going to change. Whether or not that's caused by external things or internal things is purely up to you. Whether or not you want to be a catalyst to your own change via your perspective is up to you. But I feel like at the end of the day, we have to recognize that change is sort of the nature of what we are. And it's about learning to love yourself and appreciate yourself while you're changing, instead of just as single instantiations of your achievement. Because I feel like if we only cheer for ourselves after we get the outcome, after we get the achievement, then who we are is solely going to be based on those single instantiations rather than the whole of who we are. And I think that's why a lot of people can't sit with themselves on a regular basis, because they only affirm themselves and give themselves some type of love and affection when they do good things, when they get applause from the crowd. And I wrote about this, I think, yesterday, and I posted it, about how if we always are waiting for applause, then we're always going to be stuck in a performance. I feel like we have to learn to applaud ourselves, so our performance less is performing for others and more so expressing ourselves, more so being ourselves as we are and being authentic to who we are. And I think that's what laughing at your own humor is sort of running your own show, recognizing that nothing you do has to be in accordance to other people's views, at least to a moral sense, to a ethical sense, and to an honest sense. I think if you like something, then that's what you like. I think if you want to do something with your life, you have a certain aspiration, and that's the aspiration you have. I don't necessarily think it has to be in reference to anything else, because we're all individuals. I don't think we were put here to necessarily work some type of, I don't know, unfulfilling, unpassionate life. I think that regardless of some type of monetary value or some type of gain, we all have to learn to do some sort of creative something, whether that's working out, whether that's something, just some form of expression to ground ourselves in who we are rather than what we've been told. I think it's always about breaking the barriers within your mind and moving forward with who you are so you can actually move forward where you are. And I think the only place that you can actually learn to grow and learn to experience new things is in the present moment. It's about giving yourself, again, enough strength, enough perspective to actually keep going with who you are and who you want to be. Making the choices that actually align with what you think is going to benefit you. And when I say align, I feel like that's sort of a loose slope. I feel like to a real extent, we are the ones who set conditions for ourselves in terms of our appreciation, in terms of our gratitude. And I feel like we should definitely make efforts to dispel that sort of notion that we can't feel good about ourselves unless we, do this, and the other. Of course, if you do something negative, I don't expect you to want to feel good about yourself. But I feel like some of the things we do that cause us undoing are really undo us because of what we were taught. I feel like, I don't know. I'll give some random example. Like, for example, maybe like food, maybe like actual consumption. I feel like a lot of us avoid certain tastes or feel good after we eat a bunch of this, a bunch of that, which is to an extent, to remain healthy. But I feel like the best way to go about something like that is to do it in moderation. and learn to appreciate things for what they are, not necessarily in reference to everything around them. I feel like some of the things that cause us undoing are because we can't recognize that we can be happy in other ways, that other things can cause us to feel grateful for the life that we live. And that's what I've been trying to do now. I've been trying to, once again, get back out there and sort of open my eyes to experience, open my eyes to what I really don't know, and um, ground myself in some sort of unknown, because that's really all that it is. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen in the future. I don't know anything but what's happened in the past. But what I do know is I want to grow. What I do know is I want to move on from that. So my perspective has to move on from that. My mind has to move on from that, so I can actually step into something new rather than recreate the old things over and over again. Um, but yeah, I think to learn to look up is to learn to see up. Is to learn to stop looking down. You have to look forward. There's no point in looking back. It's already past, and there's no point in constantly, looking into the future, or trying to look to the future, because it doesn't exist. The only thing that's here right now is the present, and the only way to create the future is to presently do so. So if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. I really do appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope you guys are doing what you can to take care of yourself. Um, Troubling times or great times, either way, I feel like self-love is important, or taking care of yourself is a very important thing. So on some